Greetings to you all, and of course, I bid those of you who are saints shalom. Thank you for joining this broadcast. And at this hour, I feel compelled to speak to this important matter regarding the Guyana Elections Commission versus the new parties. As you join, please indicate to me that you hear me clearly and you see me clearly. E-networks have begun to do a significant number on me. If they're tuned in here, I've been trying to get them to address an internet issue for the past 3 days or four. To no avail. You're being told they have to wait again 5 or something like that business days. But when you do not pay for your service in time, the algorithm knows how to shut off your internet connection. This is a very critical moment. So I'm actually out of my house trying to have access to some stable internet service so that I can speak to you. Imagine in oil-rich Guyana, this is what you have to face. Okay? But I don't mind. As I say to people, I do whatever I have to do in order to get the job done. That's just a sad reality. So as you join, I'm trying to get my device activated so that you can know. I'm trying to get to see your comments. I think I'm going to see a few of them, so that's good. Welcome, welcome. If you hear me clearly, you see me clearly, I appreciate that. If you don't mind, please share this broadcast as widely as possible, because I am unafraid. I have no issue speaking to the matter of the Guyana Elections Commission, which I believe is a bureaucratic dictatorship. I believe that the PPP has initiated bureaucratic rigging through GCOM. It's obvious. And it's also my conviction that those parties that are called big have a system in place that assures them of the ease of entry into the electoral processes. But it also guarantees them some cushioning or some buffering, some protection from parties that are new. Note, I have not said small. And even yesterday, we had to consistently make it known that there's nothing called a small party in Guyana, and you should desist from using that terminology about yourselves or have people describing that manner. And even as Guyanese, the need to educate, re-educate ourselves is critical. When someone describes you as being small in reference to a party or a movement, what it does, it is an automatic form of condescension speaking down to you, for you to believe that you do not have a say of significance in any forum. Do not take that for granted. There's nothing called a small party in Ghana. They're new movements, they're new parties, and there is significant influence from many of those described as being small. For example, the People's Movement. We have got a national executive council. I think it's about a 15 or 16 member council. Can you imagine that? An entire council that makes decisions, discusses policies. For example, the manifesto will have been discussed and developed at that council level. So there is structure that speaks to us being able to function efficiently in any sphere of governance. Yet the terminology of small is being used. There's nothing called a small party. Neither is there anything called a big party. Maybe you could describe some of them as being a big problem. So, greetings to you all. Let me just put this on the table. I know that hopefully others will see it when they awake, because my day is just unending. There was a correspondence sent by the Guyana Elections Commission for there to be a briefing of all parties regarding the processes in reference to garnering signatures, forms, and so on, and what would happen in preparation for the conducting of the general and regional elections of 2025. Can you imagine that I and maybe others have had to travel, at least I traveled from Linden. You are there. And with us being there, the Deputy Commissioner of the Ghana Elections Commission, Deputy CEO, as a matter of fact, would have been speaking to the procedures that you have to follow and the care, the caution you have to exercise in ensuring that certain things are in order. The list of nominees must be in alphabetical order of candidates. You must ensure that you have the quota of 175 signatures. I think for the one and 300, I'm tired, but right. You must ensure that you do not, if you have less than 150, then you're disqualified. And these things are being said. You cannot repeat signatures. You cannot have more than one individual signing for the same person signing for two or three individuals. Okay, fine. So Mr. Giddings would have been very clear as to the requirements that all parties must meet in order to have even an opportunity to enter into the elections of 2025. So July 14th, which is what you call nomination day, is the most important day for any political group. Because once that happens, if you miss July 14th, GCOM has not even accepted, listen, we're going to give you 2 extra days because there's a short period of time in which you have to work, and I'll get to that. No, you have to meet the requirements or you out. Mind you, the symbols, they said that they'll respond to us on the 1st of July. So if it's an issue that they're trying to raise this Jaguar issue with Win, if you do not meet that requirement, then you have to return to redesigning the symbol and resubmit. Once you resubmit it, if they reject it, you have to return, resubmit. All of this time, you're getting close to the 14th of July. Now, they're supposed to be. Okay. Oh, you're supposed to educate those who will vote and tell them, okay, on the ballot, this is what you should look for and these things. Now, if you have no symbol because GCOM did not approve it, how do you educate voters? Because you don't have a society in which everybody can read. That's the truth. Some people can, you have to tell them, look for the map with the people holding them, look for the jaguar head, look for the flag, look for cup, look for palm. These are things they'd say to you. So I sat there among maybe 25 other people, 28, 29 people, and listened to the presentation. Within this presentation was this aspect of the electoral process that spoke to the possibility of a joinder, and it's not joiner, Joinder, a joinder arrangement, where instead of coalescing, which means that two parties become one, so your votes go to one pot. In the joinder system, it would be, for example, the People's Movement on the ballot, and another slot you may have Leap. They have their votes and their supporters. Then you may have ANOG, for example, because they had the experience. They have their voters. In the joinder system, 5, 6, 7, if you do this, you have to write to GCOM by the 21st of July. That's the last day you have to enter this agreement. When they count the votes, when they ascertain how many votes would be for each party, they're then put together as one. And the party with the most votes will be given the seats. That's what GCOM had suggested. For over 2 years, there was a squatter in the House of Assembly called Asher. Asher refused to honor an agreement which was made between or among Schuman, Liberty and Justice, I think it is, Schuman, ANOG, and TCR TPM. Not the People's Movement, something, some T or something like that. She refused to leave. GCOM admitted that they made an error in reference to to this system. Because let me tell you the problem. Remember, I told you that Granger's the head of the list for APNU was up until RB takes. Whenever RB is there, now he becomes the head of the list if that's the arrangement that they make. Bharat is the head of the list for the PPP. That's a single party, because in APNU, which is a partnership for national unity, they have agreed that PNC leader would be the head of the list. Maybe that's what they agreed to. But if you have five parties that have agreed to join, who becomes the head of the list? And if it's executed by the one you name the head of the list, loses miserably and gets one vote, while another gets 10,000 votes. How could that head control all the others? GCOM spent 2 years. Claudia Singh said that would be in the front burner because it's a serious issue. And when we got to that meeting, questions were asked. Anag, of course, would have asked, okay, how do you address the system where we had the experience of Ashika soon? To my dismay, horrified I was to hear this man say, the deputy chief elections officer said that he could not give a clear answer to that. He had to speak to the commissioners and they would guide him. So Anag's representative, but this has been, according to you, 2 years. Claude Singh said this would be in the front burner, and you, after 2 years, you could not give and cannot give a clear answer to what happens in a joiner system. I raised my hand, indicating that I'm from the People's Movement, and I said I wanted to know, how could you call me and other people to this forum to give us strict rules regarding what should happen in elections, but you cannot answer a simple question that was put before you for over 2 years? How does that speak to your being ready when you can't answer something as simple as how do you, according to law, speak to the joint arrangement to give clarity? Could it be, hear me carefully here, if it's not in law, where in a joint arrangement, you go to a commissioner of oaths and affidavits. So you sign, all the parties, stamp before and swear before a commissioner that we intend to abide by whatever arrangement you make here. According to law, we sworn to do this. And with that swearing, you can't change, because if you swear, you change, you go to court. And you can be sued for breaching a contract. Can that, we had 2 years, 2 years for Claudette to at least approach the parliament to make some law, to clarify some law. I told you that GCOM account to the PPP side, and these people, they're out to do what is not right. Because it is impossible for me to believe that for over 2 years, you couldn't get this right. When it was on the front burner. Further to this, I continue to insist that this is unacceptable. Do not tell me that if I fail to have some criteria met, we're out of the election, but you cannot answer something as simple as this. So Mr. Giddings said that, the deputy CEO said that in the room where we were, would have been the commissioners. And he said that they're hearing what I'm saying. Now, forgive me, but I do certain things on purpose. So I said to the deputy chief elections officer, are you saying to us in this room that there are commissioners here right now and they're hearing what I'm saying? He said, yes. I said, please forgive me for doing this, but are you saying the commissioners of GCOM, the commissioners are present right now in this space with us? Right behind me, right beside me, I think Rohi was. And they're hearing what I'm asking you. They're hearing what we're asking you. You said that they hear, and they are not going to even stand to speak to us. Would I submit to you? Can I submit to you that none of the commissioners, including those from APNU or PNC side, got up to simply say to us in that forum that this is how you should deal with the joiner system? And GCOM is ready, but the commissioners who, according to law, are responsible for the conducting or having oversight of how GCOM functions don't even have the common courtesy to say to us, listen, this is how it should happen. And you're telling me that we should expect out of this entity freeness and fairness Transparency regarding the election? No, because they are unprepared to address a possible issue that they've had to deal with before. So who is it that forced, or whatever they did, Claudette Singh or whoever they did, to say that, yes, we are ready for elections? And Ali said, do it on the 1st of September. Who did that? And who is prepared, in reference to the legal fraternity, to list me as the one who's complaining? I told you this before. Make me the complainant. I want to go to court to complain to Mr. Madam Chief Justice acting Ali, still have her acting. Let me go to court to have the judge please explain to me, how can GCOM demand that I meet all of these requirements? And should one of the requirements of theirs, which would be submit a joiner list by the 21st of July, that's the last date, should I do that? They cannot tell me definitively what will happen if there's an issue. How do we go about the system? How do they ascertain who has got how many votes, and how do you determine the distribution of seats? These elections are too significant for Guyanese to sit and allow what I consider to be the beginning of the rigging process. I told you that I know in my heart that these people intend to rig the elections because the PPP cannot win unless they try to do that. And with the eyes of the ABC nations on them, they'll have a hard time rigging to getting away with this. I am telling you this because what they're doing to new parties is tantamount to rigging. Because to rig doesn't mean you have to stuff the ballot boxes. You can discriminate and do things that prevent parties from doing what they should. So if they create a system or what's called a bureaucratic process, bureaucracy, red tape, long lines of instructions for you, then it's difficult for you to have this done. We have started with the constitutional rigging. Hear me. Where two parties have decided that the PPP and the PNC are the only two people should be represented at GCOM. So my issue is not Corbyn's issue, and it's not Rohi's issue. It's not Says Gunraj's issue, because they are not from the people's movement. So you have got a case whereby new parties that could potentially win an election will have to be at the mercy of two of them who would say to you, listen, you could win. We're about to leave. Y'all could win. Really? Really? What I expect to happen is that these two parties will ensure that they frustrate any new party into saying, come under us. If you don't come under here, then GCOM is a barrier to your participating in the election. This is unjust. And Irfan Ali, you don't have any power. But Bharat, you had better ensure that you treat this fairly, because I am prepared to approach the court to say that unless you're prepared as GCOM should be, to conduct the elections in a fair manner, in a transparent manner, which includes how do you clearly state the manner in which you're about to deal with the situation, we should not have an election. We should not have any elections because you're looking for disorder. You're looking for trouble. You're looking for there to be uprisings and then say, okay, then good. You want to fight? Kill who you have to kill in the street and the PP is in charge. Is that what you're asking for? Because I don't like the sense of it where you know that from the onset, there is a problem from the outset and you still go ahead with this nonsense. Y'all are unprepared. And I have no qualms about that. When there was a madness about recount, do you know what Anil and all them found in law? That GCOM has the ability to do whatever it takes to ensure that the process appears to be fair. That's what these wicked people had in mind to tell you in 2021. They wanted to get Grange out of there. That GCOM has the right, according to law, to ensure that the appearance of fairness is before. That's law, according to Constitution. These same people now cannot say that it appears to be unfair to small parties, as they want to call them, If you want to have a joinder arrangement, it's unfair for the body who polices the elections, who conduct the elections. It's unfair for them to be unable to answer you or to present you a definitive instruction. We're not saying that let's explore possibilities and just pick a command. We're asking a simple question. There was a case with Arnold, with Schumann, and Asher. The case is where Asher refused to move. When Schumann was there, Schumann removed. Now listen to me, Guyanese people. Asher Kissoon, who did not even get 1,000 or even 800 votes, sat there as the deputy speaker of the House. So when Manzunade was not there, Asher had the power to tell Aubrey, sit down. Amanza, you sit. Barrett, well, he says a clown, so he doesn't go anywhere. And he's paid our money to go to South, and he doesn't go anywhere. Priya, hush, or you sleep, because you like to sleep. You're sleeping anyway, so go to sleep. Asher had that much power in the House of Assembly. Through a joinder arrangement, she went in and never moved. She has still not moved. So are you suggesting to me, Claudette Singh, that we should sit back and allow your body, that you're the chairperson of, to just roll on your merry way into another electoral process with the same matter being unresolved? Do you think it would be that stupid? Barrett said Ghana has a lot of stupid people. He doesn't speak to me. He was certainly addressing those of his ilk. This is catastrophic. This is dangerous. And this is certainly planned. They were commissioners from the opposition side who sat there and never even said, we're not allowed to speak. Nothing, nothing. Then getting said, they'll have this statutory meeting on Tuesday. So we have to wait. Let me just pull up my calendar for you. Let me get my calendar on my phone, which is now starting up. We have got to wait until, what date is Tuesday? Help me out here. I got it. Okay. We have to wait until the 24th of June. Mind you that nomination is on the 14th of July. So we have we met on Thursday the 19th. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have to wait for 5 days for them to talk. 5 days out of the process. So if you want to have a joint arrangement, you have 5 days with no information coming your way. So they may report you on the following day, or they may say they have to have legal counsel. I said to them in that room, don't come to me with a suggestion. You should have your lawyer, which I know they don't have your attorney. And Anil Nandalam said, I don't want any advice because he said he's probably has, if they ask his opinion, he can offer it. And he doesn't call that the advising GCOM. How could you have the attorney general who represents or is there by the appointment of Bara Jagdeo, who's the leader of the list, that has him in House Assembly? How can Anil Nandlal be offering Jacob any suggestion as to how it should function? I don't care what it is. I am calling on every Guyanese, even though you support the PPP, support what is right, unless you support corruption and wickedness. Support doing the right thing, unless you are willing to support corruption, and therefore you all are the riggers. Once you can support these things, it means you're the one who rig. You're the riggers. You're the riggers indeed, the riggers on steroids, because you've started this rigging process already. You've started it. This is already on the table. I said, Anil, essentially, I think you got my message. I don't want any advice. Get your lawyer, because if there is a law, then you need to address this in law. If you have no law, then remove the joint arrangement from it. But that can only be done through constitutional actions. Therefore, you need members of parliament, and they wouldn't convene a special meeting in parliament to say we have a problem, we need to have legislation, but they rush to say that you could remove the word shall and put may when it comes to what Carter is supposed to do to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to vote. You see where I'm going with this? The PPP rushed a bill through and said, listen, we changed this word. They did that. But now when it comes to saying that we should go back to this place, convene a special meeting because you have to join the problem. Let us go to the House Assembly and add to this law something very clear that parties entering into a joint arrangement must go before a commission of oath and affidavit or maybe the Chief Justice, something where you will sign into an agreement that's bound by law how you'll function when you get to this place. That's simple. I just did it in 3 minutes. It may take them 3 days. They refused. They didn't do it. It was interesting to me that APNU did not remain in the room, probably to hear this part of it and to speak to our aid in our defense or whatever to say, listen, because you have Anil sitting there saying absolutely nothing. PNC gone. So the two major parties were not even mentioning to us, listen, we agree with them. I hope you get this. They're not saying, listen, we agree with these people. We need to solve this problem. Nothing. Another young man from another group said clearly, and I love it. He said, this is a farce. Because if you have a flight of stairs and one treader is bad, don't come back to me and say, listen, the house is going to produce the stair with the same bad treader. He said, it's a farce. This election that you're called, that you say ready for is a sham. I like that because the new parties are vocal enough to say to them, we have seen what you're doing. We've seen your hand and we know there's not anything decent. I came here before I proceed on my way to let you know that my experience in this forum at this very first, this initial briefing was not a good one. Further, I say to you that if GCOM knows that every 5 years they know that there are elections to be held, you could have started informing people about the forms and all of that from 1 year ago so that people can know these are your requirements. Don't tell me it's on the website. You all have our money to spend. Billions you do spend. Inform and educate people so that if anyone wants to arise to say that they would like to have a part in the House Assembly or they ask to represent people, they know the requirements. We don't have to search your website for it. Educate, inform, travel around Guyana and say you're holding workshops way ahead of time, over 4 years. Every so often you go into communities and you teach people how to deal with nominations, candidacy, and everything else so that when this time comes, you have a well-oiled engine and you don't have to keep making yourself appear as if it's so important to speak to people quickly and briefly and say, get yourself in order by next week or you're finished. Voter education is no less important than those candidates being able to know what is required of them. Y'all have used our money and enjoy hefty salaries, but you do nothing to prevent issues of this nature rising. For 2 years and more, Claudette Singh sat as a chairperson and failed to address the joinder arrangement. I believe that the court should be made to speak to this for us. But let me tell you the catch regarding GCOMs. Again, the PPP and PNC's structure of law. Generally, with elections, the wrong has to be done. Then a petition is filed for there to be relief. So in other words, you have to go into the elections, they do whatever has to be done, then you have to file a petition. So the election results are already read. They're already out there. Votes have been ascertained, then you complain. So the wrong is done, then you complain. How does that become fair to us? How is it fair to us? If you eliminate certain groups before they even get to nomination day, how do you address that wrong? I would like to believe that if any leader of this country has the country's interests at heart, you'd speak to constitutional reform at GCOM first, and in reference to the Representation of People Act, in the true sense of the word. You rush to change about what Claude Singh should do in terms of shall and may. No, we should have rushed to say that, for one, you had 5 years to fix this. Nobody must have to have, if a man in region one wants to contest because he has the right to speak from Aruka and these places, he wants to ensure that in his region there is the necessary outreach to help his people. He's in region one. He's never traveled anywhere else because it's all, normally people don't travel more than 60 miles radius. Most people do not travel beyond that. Believe me, I tell you that. So a man in region one has a desire through community representation that he should represent his region. Claudette, not you, but the PNC and the PVP have decided that the best thing to do to get that one person to represent his region in region one, a very remote place. Maybe he may be at Point of Player, the tip of the map, Shell Beach area. You know what they said? You, this one person, must go to, I told you all this, but I'm saying it again. Anil and Barrett, Norton and others didn't raise it in Parliament to have this fixed. One region, you have to go region 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to contest in 6 regions. Contest. You have to have candidates in 6 regions before somebody in region one could represent his region. So can you imagine an indigenous person in region 7 and region 8, somewhere way in the mountains, but he has a community of people who say they respect him in region 8. And he wants to speak to their issues in parliament. He must find, how does he get to all these 6 other regions to form a slate? And he must contest in 13 geographic constituencies out of 25. And he all sat in the House Assembly for 5 years and never thought that's a problem. And I'm saying to you that any leader who does not wish to have this matter addressed as soon as a new administration enters the House Assembly, we don't want to deal with you because you're a problem. You intend to make this an issue that's perennial, that's ongoing. We're not going to deal with you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back with more of this. Elections 2025-2030. From the People's Movement, you get the truth. From others who intend to speak the truth, you get the truth. But this has to stop. This GCOM madness has to stop. They're not prepared to hold elections on the 1st of September. I'm telling you that because I can see it. Please let us ensure that we push back the narrative and make a finale. Announce this date probably later down in the year. I would wish to see the back of the people be much faster than anybody else. But right has to be done to all Guyanese. You should not be disenfranchised. And your will to choose who you want to represent you should not be disrespected. Thank you. And I'll see you again soon.